What's going on, y'all? So I decided to check for Dreamcast Guy's page, and I just had a feeling something funny was going to be up. And the thing I ran into 29 minutes ago, Xbox is there. That's pretty funny. Kotaku just put up an article like that too, which is actually interesting. I mean, I get what he's saying, but we're going to have to see what happens. I did not watch anything, but yeah, Xbox is dead. All lies exposed. New CEO speaks, and it is bad. This is going to be funny. Are you guys ready to get into this? I think I am. So here's the thing. I just had an idea that this was going to happen, and I was 100% correct. I know what he's going to think about it, and we know he's going to go and try to rip everything apart at Xbox because he always does this. This stuff is kind of funny. So yeah, let's get into this. Let me know what you guys think. Here we go.
Hey there, gamers. Dreamcast Guy here. Today we're talking about the death of Xbox because yesterday they gutted management. Now, some people are trying to claim that, oh, everybody just retired at once. Sarah Bond and Phil Spencer, they were always planning on stepping away, but the evidence shows otherwise. We're going to go through it because there's a lot of details that clearly show that they just walked in and said, you're fired, you're fired, you're fired, you're fired. And they put a new person in charge that's now done an interview. Matt Booty and the new AI lady, Sasha, they've been talking about the new plans for Xbox, and to say they're pathetic is an understatement.
So here's my thing. He's saying that they were all fired, which is interesting. I could possibly see maybe that happening to Sarah Bond. Phil Spencer, though, said that they were talking about that last year. But I think what's also there is what people are also questioning is they didn't want to push AI either, and they didn't agree with that. So there was some type of like ultimatum or probably something going on. It is like that. You know how it is with these corporations. They'll damage control and make things sound nice on the surface. But I believe Phil was going to retire anyways. Like he didn't even show up to the Game Awards. He could have, right? Even if it's like, he kind of let you know that. But I believe Sarah Bond was indeed at least forced out or she decided to leave with Phil Spencer. It had to be one of those two. There's just nothing else. 100%, and they didn't want to go to that direction.
Dig through all this because honestly, people seem to be sad in retrospect. Watching Xbox, which has existed for decades at this point, just die with a tweet. They deserved a bit better. But let's break it down because I'm still in the camp where not only do I think this is the end of Xbox, there's not going to be a next gen, there's not going to be a new Halo. This is it, boys. Let's talk. Hi, hope you're having a great day. If you could please give this video a like and subscribe. If you
It'll
haven't
be a new
already.
Halo. Yes, there
Now,
is.
when this first happened, I made a video talking about it because it still just seems so impossible. Like, I predicted the fact that Phil Spencer would go away, but I didn't expect him to walk in and just, well, clean house. People are making some rather bleak memes about gaming 9/11 happened, but let's be clear something real quick. The bad part about this isn't just the fact that, Xbox has sucked for a while. I'm personally just pessimistic because this is even less competition in the console gaming space. Xbox is gone. Really, now we just have the Nintendo Switch 2 and, well, the PlayStation 5, which obviously I've got a lot of gripes about, but this is the thing. Think about all the conspiracy theories that are already popping up. There was a series of memos published talking about their thoughts. Oh, I'm so excited for the future. Oh, this is why I'm glad we're handing off power. Nobody talked about Sarah Bond. Everybody just sort of acted like Sarah Bond was still part of the plan. In fact, people noticed that Sarah Bond was actually tweeting about Xbox about 2 hours before her stepping down. She was still talking about how she's excited about the future of Xbox. They clearly just fired everybody and put this doofus in charge. Now, in case you don't know Matt Booty, a lot of people have problems with the fact that
I think there could be some truth to that because that does make sense. There was somebody looking at LinkedIn posts as if like she didn't even know what the hell was going on, and then she got dropped off. That's what I'm saying. That's why I said either it was she's leaving with Phil Spencer after finding that out or whatever, or she just got dropped off, and he got put in that position, and Asha got put in her position, and that's what Satya wanted. And I've been telling people, I mean, it's him. That's what he wants to push. So. And they're not for that. I don't know if you guys remember that post he said, either you give it AI or not, right? It was an ultimatum. So this isn't anything new to me.
some of the stuff he's done, undoubtedly great. It doesn't come in mind at the time, but I'm sure this guy did something somewhere great, right? I mean, think about it. Sure, he poorly ran Xbox Studios. He gets promoted. He runs even worse Xbox Studios, and he gets promoted again. But someday, maybe Xbox's Matt Booty will do something halfway decent. here's the thing. I almost think it's funny that people are like retrospectively almost admiring the career of Phil Spencer now, right? Where Phil Spencer sucks, but at least the guy did care about games. Maybe made a lot of bad decisions. The big issue with Phil Spencer is that he did get handed a train wreck. He took over in 2013 after the Xbox had its absolute disaster, which was the launch of the Xbox One. The Xbox One sold 0. You may not have been around then. Like, you may not have been super.
What do you mean, dude? It sold 57, 58 million. That's still really good. The series is the one that's the problem. No, Xbox One still sold well. And if Microsoft would have did what they were supposed to, they would have been able to get closer to the 360 numbers. They just made mistakes and shot themselves in the foot with that 2013. The fact that they still sold that much was good because they had that carryover from 360. But it's the series sales that are the problem. So, I mean, he's being ridiculous by saying 0. And it's like, what are we talking about here? No.
Super invested in gaming news. We're talking like earlier, like YouTube era. The launch of the Xbox One was a meme. It was overpriced. It had 0 launch games. It had 0 hype. There were even talks about the fact that the built-in camera may be scanning the hair on your balls, brother. We're talking like Phil Spencer took the Ball Scanner 9000 and managed to make it a barely palatable system. And yeah, the Xbox One never caught up, and the Xbox Series X is pretty much just dead on arrival, but at least the dude actually tried. He didn't do what a lot of people do, is come in, take 3 years of a paycheck, work the minimum contract, and bounce. He tried. Maybe not hard enough, but the dude definitely tried. But
no, he did. He did the best he could. The problem is that he can't do everything by himself. I mean, you got all that other stuff going on. He did what he could. That's why I said I think that if you try to put anyone else to grab that crazy train, you wouldn't have seen better results. You think that, but it's like you don't understand what it means to take on that crazy train. That Don Matrick pretty much threw off the rail, and he grabbed it and tried to do what he could with it, along with who else helped him, because there's a whole organization there working 24/7 that made mistakes, but nobody talks about them because nobody sees them. And I think this is the mistakes that people make all the time, and making him the scapegoat. Because it's like, we've talked about this before. There's many developers that have made mistakes, but you're going to blame Phil Spencer for that development? It's like, no, they just couldn't do it. It happens.
people are also talking about the fact that what really definitely caused the downfall of Xbox, which I don't think that ever, they could not have predicted this, the acquisition of Activision Blizzard. That's $70 billion deal. Now we have a lot of leaks that basically, apparently what happened is Phil Spencer walked to Microsoft and said, hey, I really feel like I could 10x the power of Game Pass. I do feel like we're this close to breaking into that mainstream appeal, especially now that Game Pass is on other platforms. It's on PC. There was talks at one point, there were sort of discussions they were going to put Game Pass onto Nintendo Switch 2 or PlayStation 5. Obviously, that didn't materialize, but they said, just give us $70 billion. Let's buy Call of Duty, the biggest game series on the planet, and then we'll break even. And not only did this not work, it basically brought the Eye of Sauron upon them. Now, all of a sudden, you can just see that Microsoft is laser focused on, why aren't you profitable? Why are we spending billions and billions of dollars to get essentially nothing back? The acquisition had unintended consequences. It killed multiple studios, saw thousands fired, and brought huge price increases. Not great. There's also poor management at Xbox Studios, like I said, complicated legacy. I don't know, man. I think he's been dragging that corpse of Xbox around for like 10 years. This merger, which was supposed to be like this glorious era of reinvention, ended up basically being the name on Phil Spencer's headstone. Now, I did see this meme. I don't have this audio so we don't get in trouble, but have you ever watched Better Call Saul? This is like one of the best episodes. This guy here is Chuck McGill. He's basically headed like this big law firm, and he gets like a disorder. Suddenly he doesn't like electricity, and they ask him to step down, and he is incredibly offended by it. They're like, what if you retired? And he goes, what? That's offensive. I'm the best lawyer in the world. And then his partner goes, what if it's not a suggestion? And people are like, that's probably how this talk went. They probably went and took Phil Spencer into Xbox headquarters and said, you're going to retire. And he's like, but I've got the next 10 years of plans laid out. No, you're going to retire. Ghost of Hope has done a lot of Call of Duty leaks. He clearly has a lot of sources inside of Xbox and a lot of sources specifically inside of high up Microsoft. And he says this is very obvious that it was the case. He truly wanted to retire after the next Xbox launched, but instead was likely forced out because of the past year of underperformance. Not really sure what happened with Sarah Bond, but she had lots of plans in motion to take over and fill. This is the big thing that I think a lot of people are very aware of. And I give people kind of a huge chunk of credit for being hyper aware of how unique this dumpster fire is. Sarah Bond was clearly being set up as the next head of Xbox, not just from the fact that they've been making her more public facing, a lot of the decisions that she's come out with instead of Phil Spencer. She was clearly being set up of, here is Mrs. Xbox Queen, right? And then suddenly she's gone and Phil Spencer's gone. There are actually even interviews of Phil Spencer, like I think they were about 9 months ago, talking to him about the idea of retirement, and he busts out laughing and says, nope, we have a long, happy partnership with Xbox ahead. I just truly do not believe this was, hey, it's been a long legacy, I'm ready to step away, especially because he has been with Microsoft since 1988. Like, he has been there for so many decades, and this is actually coming up on the 25th anniversary of Xbox. I just don't think that he would leave before the landmark that, in a lot of ways, is his legacy. You know, that's what he's going to be remembered for, is what he did for Xbox.
He has some good points about that in a certain extent. And that's what I feel like. Like I said, there was some type of internal struggle going on at Xbox with him leading and fighting for what he wanted Xbox to be, and then training Sarah Bond to listening to him and what Satya wanted to override. I've been talking about this for a while. And that it did feel weird because I don't see why he would not want to be there for all the stuff that's been worked on to celebrate that 25th anniversary or whatever it is, right? I would think that too, and to be there for the launch of the Magnus. You know, that is something definitely to be found out. Hopefully somebody can get some inside intel. Because I've thought about that too. Like I said, there's two things here. It's what I said earlier. Either he wanted to just step down, or something did happen between him and Satya. And since he pretty much had Sarah Bond with him everywhere they went, you know what was going to happen. It's like, nah, what's going to happen is just, you know, yeah, you're going to retire. She's going to leave now, and we're going to do our usual backdooring. You get what I mean? And that's pretty much what happened. And then there's like this ridiculous PR blinding light of, now we're about to make Xbox great again, but you're not a gamer. Historically, you don't game either. Like, you have nothing to do with the gaming industry. And it's like, this is pretty obvious. And I think everybody knows that. It's like, you don't know anything about gaming. You're not a gamer. She's not a gamer. She's an AI executive, right? And if you look at your history, you don't know anything about gaming and you don't care about it. You're literally about AI, and you hired somebody that was about AI. And if you add it up together, it actually makes sense. So now you're going to take the role of gaming. And this is all more corporate shark nonsense and appearing to be nice. But really, when you look at the disaster that's happening, that's the reality. And somebody who actually knows about gaming, which is Phil Spencer, and has been there for a while and was even gaming back in the 90s and helped develop stuff, yeah, is not there. And Sarah Bond's not really a gamer either, but she was just learning what she could from Phil Spencer. But I never thought that she was going to take over and be in that position. I was like, nah, Satya's going to replace her with somebody else. She won't get that position because I just know how it works. And Phil Spencer's going to leave. When he retires, she's going to. Like, I seen that. That actually makes sense to me. So I'm not shocked about that because Satya wasn't going to let that happen. What you saw happen is exactly what I am not shocked by. So let's continue.
Look, so we're going to talk about the statements that have been made. The new executive has now been making statements, the new CEO, and her name is Asha. Asha has been talking about, essentially, she jumps from company to company to company, just shoving into AI for everything. She did it for Instacart. She does it for Meta. Her whole thing is basically, oh, you think that's good, but what if your can opener had a little voice that says stuff to you? Like, her whole thing is cramming stupid AI into crap to basically make it work, but make the investors clap like seals, right? Well, she has already said her goal is to not make AI slop. The fact that her first statement is about AI slop, probably a little bit of an alarm bell. Some people are trying to claim, oh, she's so locked in. She's so already focused on the gamer's vision of quality games. These are lies from corporate liars. As monetization and AI evolve, our influence this future, We will not chase short-term efficiency or flood our ecosystem with soulless AI slop. Games always are and always will be art, crafted by humans. This sounds like cope. This sounds like what they're going to try and do is basically
That's
say,
what I
like,
said.
oh yeah, it's not soulless slop and it's still made by people. Humans use the tools of AI. All these freaking AI companies now always do this thing of like, this isn't AI art. A person typed in that prompt to make the worst picture you've ever seen of Goku getting freaking blown in the back of a bus stop. That's human art, brother. That's not how this works. Actual games are made by actual people from start to finish. Some Xbox defenders are trying to claim, Jez Corden's already saying, oh, there's no real changes. Everything's still on strategy. This is definitely not true. I'm not sure why he's saying this. I'm not sure why it is that Xbox defenders have this weird obsession with like, yeah, man, everything's great. This is the writer of Fallout New Vegas. This dude is the Fallout New Vegas writer. The dude is a professional Xbox hater in his free time just for fun. I, Xbox Shilper Supreme, was told nothing, and I'm now here to reassure you that nothing has changed despite the changes that have occurred as a result of the current strategy. Jez Corden, forever champion of disappointment. What makes this shady is that when Jim Ryan retired from PlayStation, it was done over 3 months. Microsoft is effectively kicking Phil out within days. The new Xbox CEO has no background in gaming. Sarah Bond just resigned without an email even explaining her departure. A lot of people really are talking about the fact that this is that kind of thing where it's obvious they just said, hey, broke boys get out. AI is profitable. We're putting all our money into AI. We want to see what these people do. We don't even care about your legacy or your plans. Get out. One guess, we're about to find out how many projects Phil Spencer was shielding from Microsoft's quarterly math. Now, this is kind of one of those urban legends in the industry that we were never really able to verify, but there is talks that with Phil Spencer specifically and some old PlayStation heads like Shuhei Yoshida, they would find personal projects that they cared about the most. A little indie game or a tiny project, and basically make the best to not bring it up. Kind of let them exist invisibly to crank out good quality stuff instead of putting it into paperwork that may get the eye of Sauron looking at them. But I just truly think with all the closures, the amount of tens of thousands of layoffs, I truly do not believe that at this point, Phil Spencer, anything he was protecting, I just can't believe that he had anything left in his pocket after so many rounds of bloodbath layoffs, right? Look at this. People are even pointing out, former...
This is actually funny. He has some good points when it comes to some of that stuff. There's definitely going to be some more leaking out coming soon for sure. It is interesting seeing like what he thinks about how Phil Spencer is forced out, because usually when people do retire, even when Bowser, like you have kind of like this window, but this did seem like an immediate exit in a certain sense. So there's definitely some good points there he has.
Sarah Bond, president, the former Xbox president, just 3 hours ago on LinkedIn was talking about when everybody plays, we all win. We'd love to learn more about how you play so we can continue improving Xbox. You would not say this if you knew what was about to happen. The fact that she did not even have an email ready to go, I think this is a sign that right now Microsoft has just given up on Xbox. I think they truly do not even care enough to pretend this is even a branch of them, right? Oh yeah, they definitely told her to bow out gracefully or be fired. She didn't deserve this. This whole discussion around good AI or bad AI for Xbox, this to me is just so bleak. I really just think that I keep thinking about the old school era of video games. And just as a person that grew up playing a lot of old school Nintendo, a person playing a lot of Game Boy, a person growing up playing like old school PS1 and handcrafted RPGs, the big thing that I killed gaming more than anything else is the incredibly long production cycles. We have just hit this point where every game is just taking 6, 7, 8 years to come out, which balloons the budget, which means that more people want to try and have live service games. All right, maybe we can put it out in 3 years and then have like 5 years of patches. That way we get more upfront cash and a longer trail of cash. Everybody is trying to pivot to find a way to make those long production cycles pay off not just more, but faster. And it's made them lean on the idea of AI. Even though AI clearly doesn't work, even though AI clearly has not proved itself, people still have this idea that artificial intelligence will make games faster, cheaper, and better than people.
No.
And that just isn't proven.
Hell no.
When have you ever seen a game that's made by any amount of actual AI that's even halfway decent? You don't see it.
Yeah, no, it makes everything worse. He's right. It was supposed to be used as a side support companion, but you're the leader. That's what Kojima was saying about AI as well. Like, help with this little miscellaneous task stuff. But the moment it starts taking the driver's seat, then yeah, goodbye.
People care about passion projects. People are not sitting down in movie theaters to watch the next version of AI slop. They're sitting down in movie theaters to watch art. I read a ton of books. Obviously, I'm covered in book quotes, and I was in the book business for 10 years. I would never read an AI written book. I want to see people's personal stories of tragedy, of triumph, of crazy conclusions and epic crime, or even cool nonfiction and stuff.
Yeah, because there's soul in there. There's struggle in there. There's nothing about an AI struggling. There's nothing about it going through things and growing up and building bonds. Like, it doesn't have a soul. It's just whatever you put into it. So anybody that lets that lead is brain dead to me. And that's pretty obvious because it's like, no, or you're being controlled by somebody else's inputs. And it should never take the lead because it doesn't have your heart, mind, or soul. That should be what is leading. And that's the problem when people trying to get that to lead. And it's like, well, then you just become soulless nonsense.
I just feel like this lady, this whole idea of we have no tolerance for bad AI, AI has been long part of gaming and will continue to be. Great stories are created by humans. This is lies. This is fluff. I do truly believe that if you're seeing this video and you still have an Xbox Series X and you've been waiting to see if there's a door, if there's a hard exit, this is your chance. Sell it by Monday. Make your time. Thank you so much for watching, gamers.
He has some good points in this video. Usually the Xbox is dead stuff is kind of funny, but I can understand what he means by what he said in this video and why he put that title. It's actually kind of accurate and lines up. Okay, here we go again. Let's just hope Sony doesn't follow suit to AI, but who knows? It died again. Cat fight between Sarah and Asha. Xbox is immortal. Have a nice day. Oh man, that's pretty funny. No, like that's why you gotta watch the video. So this was actually a good one. Let me know what you guys think. Leave a comment down below. He has some good points. We're gonna be finding out more intel over time, but he has a really good point about Sarah Bondo. I don't think she retired like that. No, I think she was fired. Later, y'all.